When you book a trip, when you take a trip, the last thing you want to be worrying about is insurance, right? It's like, so stressful. And yet it's pretty important. The first thing for most people is to look at their credit card insurance. And that may do the trick, depending on what you're doing. And it may turn out to be wholly insufficient. We're going to talk about the credit card insurance dynamic when it comes to travel. Our guest is Barry Choi. He is a personal finance expert, travel expert, big Instagrammer at Barry Choi, and also on the website, The Money We Have. Hello, Barry.
Good to be back, Bruce. Always good to be with you.
Uh, Everything we're going to talk about is assuming the phrase "it depends," because every person is different, every credit card is different. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, what's on your long list of "it depends"? What are some things that people just need to know that it's super different whether you have this card or that card?
I think the most obvious things is like your age, right? So if you're 55 plus, there's a good chance you won't have very much insurance. If you're 65 plus, forget it. You probably get 3 or 4 days at max. If you have any pre-existing condition, doesn't matter how old you are, I would be very concerned about that. And then it's just knowing the rules because how you book, what card you pay with, did you pay with points can have a significant impact on whether you're insured or not.
Did you notice my facial expression? There was a look of shock that my age was relevant to coverage. It makes complete and total sense. I've just never thought about it that way. And I think probably because when I think about credit card insurance, it's less about health for me and more about car rental. That's kind of where it starts and stops for me. What are some areas where credit card insurance shines? Like where does it work? And you don't need to top it up. It's just like solid.
Yeah, so let's kind of differentiate things to begin with. First, there's travel medical. So that's obvious for things like if you got to go to the hospital, you got to go to the doctor. Travel medical is included no matter what. You don't have to buy or pay for your hotels or your flights on your credit card. This is actually a Canadian rule. So this is one of those things where Canadian government has actually done us a huge solid. That's why a lot of US credit cards do not have travel insurance. But to say where you're covered, if you're under the age of 55, I maybe even that under age of 50, just to give yourself a little bit of buffer, relatively healthy, not doing anything extreme. And why I say extreme, like mountain climbing, bungee jumping, surfing, or certain things like that, extreme sports, you're probably okay, especially if you're only traveling for, say, 14 days. But once you get out of those limits, things are off the table. Of course, you can buy top up, you can get separate policies. But as you said, it depends.
Hmm. The fanciest credit cards, the ones with the highest fees, tend to have like a almost a laundry list of coverage that they offer as a part of the
Mhm.
package. What are some of those things that are less helpful? Like they look great on paper, but aren't so useful.
Oh, well, I don't remember the exact term, but they call it like trip accident or something. And that basically means death. Do you know what I mean? It's
That's a
just
really
like,
big accident.
yeah. It's like you lose an arm. It's like, oh, great. I got like $50,000, but like I'd rather have my arm or I'd rather
Right.
like not die. Do you know what I mean? So those things sound great. And even like, it's funny, you had mentioned car insurance on the credit cards.
Yeah.
And I totally am with you, but as I've written about this coverage for a couple of years now, I realize how absurd the car insurance policies are these days. Just to give you an example, a lot of the basic credit cards, they only cover you up to $65,000. They have not adjusted for inflation over the years. Cars cost a lot more these days. Some of the premium cards cover up to $85,000, which is better, but you can see there's this huge gap. But on top of that, there are so many rules. In some countries, you have to decline it completely, or it may not even cover you. I think I read somewhere in like Northern Ireland, car insurance, credit card insurance doesn't apply. It's very specific. On top of that, car rental insurance does not cover liability. So it's great that you might get an accident, you have to pay for damages, but if someone you hit decides to sue you for $2 million, you're kind of on your own. However, if you drive a car at home and you have insurance at home, there's a very good chance that your regular car insurance policy covers foreign car rentals in some countries.
Mm.
So you will probably already have coverage anyways, and that's what I would rely on first. But again, these are things people wouldn't even think about.
Yeah, it's one area where I research obsessively, given that we travel and you show up in a country and the car rental agency is like, here are three insurance options. And
Yep.
I second guess myself. Like I did the research. I'm like, 99% sure I'm
Yeah,
fine
yeah.
because I
And
don't want to
you don't want to
spend.
be like that 1%, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
pay this much
And
money.
it could be like $40 a day. It could
Yeah,
amount to a significant chunk.
yeah.
You referenced points.
Mhm.
So a lot of people book hotels, flights, all those things on points. What does that do to your coverage?
So it really depends on how the language is in the policy. So one good example is like I'm just generalizing here. This might be not 100% accurate. An Aeroplan credit card, which is Air Canada's loyalty program, might say, "Oh, you need to charge 75% of your trip to your credit card for your travel insurance to apply." So let's say you decide to book it on points. Well, in theory, if those points cover 75% of the flight, you're still insured, right? But let's just say that it's only covered 50%. Well, you're short 25%. So if you pay the remaining balance, that 25% or other 50% on an Aeroplan credit card, you are now insured. If you've paid 100% on points, you are insured. But also don't forget, like this only applies as long as you still have this credit card, right? So say you've got this credit card, you see the annual fees coming up, you're like, oh, I don't want to pay it again. I don't need this card. I'm going to cancel it. Once you cancel that credit card, your insurance is no longer in play. So you got to be very careful about which credit card you're going to booking at because sometimes you got to think about, oh, 6 months from now, I'm not going to, I'm traveling, but this card's going to renew in 3 months and I won't want that card anymore. Very, very complicated at times.
The world is a complicated place these days. Without getting into the specifics, news events have had people question whether they are really interested in traveling. And I've been talking more about cancel for any reason insurance more than I have at any other time in my career. I've been surprised the more I've researched how not great that
No,
coverage is. Tell us, where do you net out on it? And do you agree with my assessment? Not great.
I think it's great if you're the insurance provider. Do you
Okay.
know what I mean?
Okay.
Like make them a lot of money. So it sounds great in theory, like especially during world events, everyone's like, well, I never could have seen this happening. I should be able to cancel for any reason. Like, well, you can if you're willing to pay a premium for it. Uh, generally speaking, it's about 10% of any costs that aren't fully refundable, right? So, let's say you need coverage for $5,000, they're going to charge you $500, right? But on top of that, they only pay out 50% of that. So you really got to be sure of what's going on. If you have a 50% chance that you're going to cancel, yeah, it's probably worth it, right? If there's a 25% chance, you might break even. And if it's unlikely, then it really doesn't make any sense. That said,
Yeah.
every single type of vacation you book is a little bit different. What's really interesting is if you're booking, say, a vacation package through Air Canada Vacations, WestJet Vacations, Air Transit, they offer something that's not technically cancel for any reason insurance, but for like $100, you can actually change where you're traveling to, or you can move your date. So it's actually a reasonable solution.
Hmm.
So that gives you some kind of flexibility. So if you're booking the all-inclusive resort, I would say, yeah, that's probably worth a little bit more. But at the same time, for me, just to give you a more personal example, if I'm not sure about a trip, I just book a refundable fare. So whether that be a plane ticket or a hotel, plane ticket's a little bit more expensive, so it's a little bit tricky. But like I said, usually I'm pretty sure if
Hmm.
if there's a chance I'm going to cancel or not. And once I settle on my dates, okay, I know 100% sure I am going to go on this trip. I'll just look for another airfare ticket where the non-refundable price is cheaper and then cancel my
Right.
other ticket, right?
Right.
Same thing applies to hotels. A lot of people don't realize that you can book that fully refundable rate, and hotel prices are dynamic, so they're constantly changing. So even after I've booked a hotel room, I'll check once a week for the exact same hotel to see its change price, and I'm literally rebooking the exact same room, and
Wow.
nothing's being charged yet, right? So it's just lowering the cost every single time. And I know some people are watching like, Barry, you are absolutely insane. I'm not
Uh-huh.
going to spend my time doing this, but it literally takes like 3 minutes once a week. And it's honestly saved me hundreds of dollars over the years.
Yeah, I'm married to someone who's willing to do that. I am not willing to do that. I am
My wife
so
won't do it
closure
either, right?
oriented. If
Yeah.
I've made a plan, that is what's happening. I'm not changing. Now, on that, you are very engaged in the flow of new credit card offers. This is your beat. You cover
Yes.
them. I don't think I've changed my credit cards in probably 20 years. But
Mhm.
if someone is a credit card changer, highly engaged in the category like you, or they're looking for a new card for whatever reason, where on the hierarchy of benefits should insurance be? Like, how different is it card A versus card B?
I think any credit card you look at, it doesn't matter what it is, right? You're going to look at the annual fee and see what benefits come with it. So, in my opinion, like we are talking earlier, how if you're a younger person and you rely on these perks, then yeah, it should be factored in. Just to give you a good example of someone my age who wants like a multi-trip policy that will last me a year, it's probably going to cost me $200 or $300, right? Pretty reasonable amount. I'm not saying it's expensive, but if my credit card includes that, and I'm only paying, say, like $150 a year, like obviously I'm netting positive, right? It's those cards that have a high annual fee. Think 599 plus is where you really want to start doing the math. You can convince yourself that these benefits are worth it, but are you actually going to use it? So
Mm,
I right now don't buy a separate travel insurance policy. But I also know, like you said, I read about this. I know this insurance inside out, so I know exactly what I'm
mm,
entitled to. So fortunately, over the years, I've been able to make many very successful claims. But at the same time, I've heard horror stories of people who have been out of pocket. There's always a solution. It just depends on whether you're willing to pay for it.
mm. What's your sense for how credit card companies are on the claims front versus purpose-built insurance solutions? Is there a difference?
I would say purpose-built is or standalone policy is definitely 100% better, right?
Okay.
The obvious thing is when you apply or you're getting a standalone policy, you can ask questions, right? You're like, hey, I'm older, or like I had some back issues 2 years ago. Am I still going to be insured, right? And that's a fair question. Even my dad, he's in his late 70s. He's had multiple heart surgeries. Getting insurance for him is difficult. We can get it; it's expensive, but obviously I wouldn't be able to get it on a credit card. So having that standalone policy is always highly beneficial. And I encourage people watching. Sometimes they may be watching like, I'll never be insured. I'm too old. I've had health issues. That's not the
Mm,
case. With the standalone policy, you can add on certain things, which is like rider stability risers. So let's say you had a heart attack 6 months ago, but your doctor says you're clear, everything's looking good, you've gone through the right procedures. As far as we're concerned from a medical perspective, you are healthy to travel. An insurance provider, a separate one, could look at that and be like, hey, you know what? We agree with your doctor. For X amount of dollars, you're covered for the rest of the year, even if something else comes up. Whereas
mm,
a credit card insurance policy, well, really quickly, let's say you make that claim and they say, hey, you went to your doctor last week and you had a cough. You're no longer covered for a heart attack
right.
because that cough was related. So again, standalone policy separate.
One last question before we go. I have you. I can ask you questions
You can.
anytime I want. Most people don't have that access. What's your sense for artificial intelligence and its ability to compare travel insurance on credit cards versus standalone policies? How sophisticated is that insight? How accurate is that insight to your best, with your best guess at this point in time?
I think if you're comparing just two specific cards, it's probably fine, right? You line them up side by side, and then you as a user can quickly go back and look. But if you were just to say, hey, tell me the best cards, I don't know if I trust it. A couple years ago, I was working an article at the Globe Mail, and we used AI just to kind of like get a sense of it, and they used me as a fact checker, and it was really, really wrong, right?
Okay.
But to be fair, AI has improved over the last couple of years, and I use it for certain things, but I wouldn't trust it. You should always verify it yourself.
Very helpful stuff. Barry, thanks for joining us today.
No problem.
Barry Choi, personal finance expert, travel expert, at Barry_Choi on Instagram. Money We Have is his website. He was here to talk about credit card insurance. There is a ton to know. He knows much of it. You're going to need to start there, but then do your own research.